5 AI tools, one identical prompt, one question. Which one can actually create a movie scene that feels like it belongs on the big screen? AI video generation has reached a point where creating a visually impressive clip is no longer the hardest challenge. Almost every major tool can produce stunning images, dramatic lighting, and realistic environments. The real test begins when you ask them to create something that feels like a scene from an actual film. For this experiment, the same cinematic prompt was given to 5 different AI video tools. No changes, no special adjustments. Each model had the same opportunity to transform words into a complete visual experience. The goal was not just to find the prettiest result. A great movie scene needs more than beautiful visuals. It needs believable characters, natural movement, consistent details, emotional atmosphere, and a camera style that feels intentional. Some tools created impressive first impressions. Others surprised with details that were impossible to ignore. And as the results started appearing side by side, the differences between them became much clearer, because the winner would not simply be the AI that generated the most beautiful frame. It would be the one that understood what makes a scene feel like cinema. The difference between a simple AI clip and a cinematic scene comes down to details that viewers often feel before they can explain them. A cinematic result is not created by resolution alone. It depends on how well the AI understands storytelling elements, how a character moves, how the camera reveals information, how lighting creates mood, and whether every part of the scene feels connected. A movie scene has intention behind every choice. The camera does not just move randomly. The character does not just stand there. The environment supports the emotion of the moment. Even small details, like realistic motion, facial expressions, and consistent objects, can decide whether a scene feels authentic or artificial. That is where these 5 AI tools are truly being tested. They are not just generating pixels. They are trying to understand a director's vision from a simple text description. One tool may create the most beautiful image, another may produce smoother movement, and another may capture the atmosphere better. But only one can combine all of these elements into something that feels like a complete movie scene. The first tool immediately showed why AI video has become so competitive. From the opening frames, it created a scene that felt surprisingly close to a professionally designed shot. The strongest part was the visual atmosphere. The lighting matched the mood of the prompt, the environment felt carefully constructed, and the overall composition looked intentional rather than randomly generated. The camera movement also added to the feeling that this was a planned scene instead of a collection of AI-generated frames. But the real test was not just the first impression. A cinematic scene needs everything to work together over time. The character needed to remain believable, the details needed to stay consistent, and every movement needed to support the story. This tool proved that it could create a strong foundation. It understood the visual language of cinema and delivered a result that immediately raised expectations for the rest of the competition. However, the next challenge would reveal a different strength. Creating a beautiful scene is one thing. Keeping that scene stable while everything starts moving is where another AI tool begins to compete. The second tool approached the challenge from a different direction. Instead of focusing mainly on atmosphere and composition, it stood out through movement. The motion felt smooth, dynamic, and surprisingly natural. Characters moved with more energy, camera transitions felt more alive, and the scene had a stronger sense of action. In a real film, movement can completely change how an audience experiences a moment, and this tool understood that part well. But once the scene continued, a weakness started to appear. Some details that looked perfect in the opening frames became less reliable over time. Small changes in character appearance, environment details, or visual continuity made the scene feel less connected from one moment to the next. It created motion that looked cinematic, but maintaining a consistent world became more difficult. That balance is what separates impressive AI clips from complete movie scenes. A camera can move beautifully, but if the characters or details change unexpectedly, the illusion starts to break. And the next tool would challenge the competition in the area that matters most for storytelling, making the characters feel real. The third tool took a different approach by focusing on the element that often decides whether viewers connect with a scene, the characters themselves. Instead of simply creating impressive visuals, this tool produced performances that felt more natural. Facial expressions carried more emotion, character movements felt more intentional, and small details made the people inside the scene feel less like generated objects and more like actual actors. This became especially noticeable during emotional moments. The characters reacted in ways that felt connected to the situation, creating a stronger sense of presence. The scene was not just showing what happened, it felt like something was actually happening. However, realism in character performance is only one piece of the puzzle. A great movie scene also depends on the world around those characters, the lighting, camera choices, atmosphere, and overall visual direction. This tool proved that believable characters can carry a scene further than perfect visuals alone. But the next contender would focus on another powerful cinematic element, creating an atmosphere that feels like it was captured by a professional film crew. The fourth tool approached the prompt like a director thinking about the entire scene, not just individual elements. Its biggest strength was atmosphere. The lighting, color, camera movement, and overall mood worked together to create a world that felt carefully designed. Instead of simply generating a character and a location, it created a sense that there was a story happening beyond the frame. The camera work was another major advantage. Shots felt more deliberate, with movements that guided attention and added emotion to the scene. The result had a stronger cinematic language, making it feel closer to something captured for a film rather than a simple AI demonstration. However, even a visually powerful scene still has to balance creativity with accuracy. A beautiful atmosphere can immediately capture attention, but small inconsistencies can affect how believable the final result feels. This tool showed that AI can understand more than just objects and characters. It can begin to understand style, mood, and visual storytelling. But the final competitor would bring something different, a completely unique interpretation of the same prompt, pushing creativity to its limit. The fifth tool brought the most unexpected result because it did not simply try to recreate the prompt in a traditional way. Instead, it interpreted the idea with a more creative approach. Its biggest advantage was originality. The scene had choices that felt different from the others, adding its own visual style and personality. It showed that AI tools are not only competing in realism, but also in how they understand and transform an idea into something visually interesting. Some details felt more imaginative, while others showed that creativity can sometimes come with trade-offs. A bold interpretation can create a memorable scene, but it also has to stay connected to the original vision. After testing all 5 tools, one thing became clear. There is no single definition of a great AI-generated movie scene. One tool may win in realism, another in movement, another in atmosphere, and another in creative direction. The real comparison begins when all of these strengths and weaknesses are placed side by side. Putting all 5 results side by side revealed the biggest difference between them. Each tool had a different understanding of what makes a scene feel cinematic. The first tool created a strong overall foundation with impressive visual design and a balanced cinematic look. The second stood out with smooth motion and energetic camera movement, but struggled when consistency became important. The third delivered the strongest character performance, making the scene feel more human and emotionally connected. The fourth created the most complete atmosphere, with camera choices and visual style that felt carefully directed. The fifth took the biggest creative risk, producing the most unique interpretation of the original idea. But every strength came with a weakness. Some prioritized realism, others prioritized creativity, and others focused on technical polish. The question was no longer which tool looked impressive for a single frame. The real question was, which one could combine all these elements into a scene that felt like a genuine movie? After comparing every result, the ranking became much clearer. Each AI tool brought something valuable to the competition, but only one managed to balance all the elements that make a scene feel like a real movie. The strongest results were not necessarily the ones with the most dramatic visuals or the most creative ideas. The winning qualities came from balance, believable characters, realistic movement, consistent details, strong atmosphere, and camera choices that supported the story. Some tools created incredible individual moments, but struggled when the scene continued. Others delivered beautiful worlds, but lacked character depth. A few showed impressive creativity, but moved further away from the original vision. The final winner was the tool that could combine cinematic visuals with storytelling discipline. It understood that a great movie scene is not just about looking impressive. It is about making the viewer believe that the world on screen actually exists. The final result shows that creating a cinematic AI scene is not about finding a tool that is perfect at one thing. The strongest AI is the one that understands how every element works together. A beautiful frame can capture attention, Smooth movement can make a scene exciting. Realistic characters can create emotion. Creative choices can make an idea memorable. But a true movie-like experience requires all of these pieces to work together. This experiment showed that AI video generation has moved far beyond simple visual creation. These tools are beginning to understand composition, storytelling, atmosphere, and emotion in completely different ways. The best choice depends on what you value most: realism, creativity, motion, or cinematic style. But one thing is clear: the future of filmmaking will not belong to the AI that only creates impressive images. It will belong to the AI that can turn a simple prompt into a complete story.